Recording. All right, so module 16 is hacking wireless networks. So we're going to talk about wireless concepts, explain different wireless encryption algorithms, explain different wireless threats, demonstrate wireless hacking methodology, different wireless hacking tools, Bluetooth hacking, wireless attack countermeasures, and some wireless security tools. Okay, so this one's a nice one that you would probably do well to just save. You probably know a bunch of this stuff already. GSM is just a type of wireless network. It's a universal system used for mobile transportation for wireless networks. Bandwidth, we know what that is. AP or access point, that's used to connect your wireless devices between a wireless and wired network. BSSID, that's your MAC address of an AP that has set up a basic service set. ISM band is a set of frequencies for the international industrial, scientific, and medical communities. Hotspots, I think most of us have used or know what those are. That's where you place where a wireless network is available for public use, or you can have a mobile wireless hotspot, which is just a piece of technology. Or you can use your phone as one. Association, the process of connecting a wireless device to an AP. SSID is your service set identifier. That's your 32 alphanumeric characters given to your, it's your name of your WLAN, your network. OFDM is orthogonal frequency division multiplexing. This is a method of encoding digital data on multiple carrier frequencies. Just remember that multiple, and that will help you remember the multiplexing multiple. MIMO, OFDM is multiple input, multiple output. So that's your 4G, 5G stuff. Yes, thank you, Kitty. DSS, direct sequence spread spectrum. Original data signal multiplied with a pseudo random noise spreading the code. And then frequency hopping spread spectrum. This one's a method of transmitting radio signals by rapidly switching a carrier among many frequency channels. So we've talked quite a bit about some of this stuff. Wireless network is just a wireless version of a wired network. Now, I will warn you, there are test questions on these, the wireless standards, because there are test questions in the CEH about these. Not all of them you have to remember as much. One of the things that I've seen is the frequency is usually what they ask you about, or they'll ask you about what the letter is for, like on standard E. This one's guidance for prioritization of data, voice, and video. D was done to enhance A and B for global portability by allowing variations in frequency, power levels, and bandwidth. You know, just take a minute and look through. Guys, could you stop helping? Take a minute and look through these, and then you have Bluetooth, Zigbee, and WiMAX as well. Yeah, SEC Plus, they're on there too. Yeah, good point, good point. Wi-Fi authentication modes. So there are questions about Wi-Fi authentication modes. So any wireless device that can be authenticated with the AP, your access point, allowing the device to transmit data only when its WEP key matches to that of the AP. That's open system authentication. And then shared key authentication is the station and the AP use the same WEP key, to provide authentication, which means that this key should be enabled and configured manually on both the AP client. Wi-Fi authentication process using a centralized authentication server. With this one, a centralized authentication server, or sometimes you'll see it called the CAS, known as the Remote Authentication Dial-In User Service Radius, sends authentication keys to both the AP and client that require authentication with the AP. This enables the AP to identify a particular wireless client. Okay, and these I have seen. Cat, would you stop being so cranky? These I have actually seen questions about the types of wireless antennas as well, and this is actually a really nice little graphic. So the directional antenna is used to broadcast and obtain radio waves. Remember, directional, single directional. Omnidirectional means the whole 360-degree horizontal rotation for wireless base stations. A parabolic grid antenna. Well, hey, there you go. Now you have something you know about. The parabolic grid antenna is based on the principle of a satellite dish, but lacks solid backing. It can pick up Wi-Fi signals from 10 miles or more. And you'll see unidirectional and omnidirectional they have here. Yagi, you know what? I've never had this one pronounced well. This one's unidirectional antenna, commonly used in communications for a frequency band and blah, blah, blah. You know, you may not remember the 10 megahertz, but try to remember VHF and UHF. That's a Yagi antenna. Dipole antenna is a bidirectional antenna used to support client connections rather than site-to-site applications. And reflector antennas are used to concentrate EM energy, which is radiated or received at a focal point. Oh yeah, no, I've never seen anything but pictures on a lot of these antennas, so you know, I do not mind when you pop it on that. Wireless encryption algorithms. What you need to know is that there are some that are bad and are meaning that they have been should not be used anymore. The very first one there, WEP, you should not see that used because it is very, well, not very old, but it's old enough that it's easily gone around. So as you can see, most routers now use the 802, I think it's AC. So they've gone to 2 letters. So this one's 802B. So this was a long ways back in the lettering system. It uses let's see, 24-bit initialization vector to form stream cipher RC4. And these are old ciphers that have significant vulnerabilities and design flaws and are easy to crack. So you should not be using WPA or a WEP. There's WPA 1 or just the regular and 2 and 3. You should be using at least W2, PA2. This one was on the 11Y, and you can do with 128-bit keys. This one uses TKIP to eliminate the weakness of WEP by including per packet mixing functions, message integrity checks, extended initialization vectors, and rekeying mechanisms. The other thing about this one is that, you know, they always have better ciphers, so that cipher's not as strong as this one. This one's an upgrade to WPA that includes mandatory support for counter mode with cipher block chaining, messages, authentication code, and AES-based encryption mode with strong security. So That should be your minimum what you're using currently. If you're on a home system, you really shouldn't be using anything lower than that. Then we have 3, which is just an advanced implementation of WPA2, which has more advanced algorithms. It has this one, instead of having AES 128, it has AES GCMP 256. And so it just is a little bit a bump above that. So I've seen WPA3 more in an enterprise environment than in a personal environment, but that's not saying that you shouldn't use it. So this is a nice little table that I would suggest that you keep. So right there, even on the bottom, it says, do not use WEP and WPA. So, and then it has your attributes here. It has your encryption algorithms, size, encryption key lengths, and you can see definitely the difference. Key management, as you can see on WEP, there is none. And then they have the different integrity check mechanisms. So we kind of went over this already, but what are the issues on these? This one does, the first one, WEP does not ensure complete cryptographic integrity. It's sent in clear text, that chunk that it is. It has the known plain text attacks, has all sorts of password cracking attacks. Associate, dissociate messages are not authenticated. You can easily construct a decryption table of constructed key streams, lack of centralized key management, and is part of the RC4 encryption key, which leads to an analytical attack. Yeah, it's funny. Issues for WPA. Pre-shared key is vulnerable to eavesdropping and dictionary attacks. Lack of forward secrecy. WPA TKIP is vulnerable to packet spoofing and decryption attacks. Insecure random number generator in WPA allows the discovery of GTK generated by the AP. And vulnerabilities in TKIP allow attackers to guess the IP address of the subnet. So that's why you should not be using those first 2. There's just too many holes. Issues with WPA2. There are pre-shared keys that are vulnerable to eavesdropping and dictionary attacks. Lack of forward secrecy. There's a couple of possible vulnerabilities. Insecure random number generator can allow attacks. So even though WPA2 is still used frequently, you can see that it does have some issues that have been identified. Okay, wireless threats, access control attacks. So this wireless access control attacks aim to penetrate a network by evading WLAN access control measures like AP MAC filters and Wi-Fi port access controls. So war driving, rogue access points, MAC spoofing are some examples. Integrity attacks. Integrity attacks, the attacker sends forged control management or data frames over a wireless network to misdirect the wireless devices to perform another type of attack. Data frame injection, web injection, bit flipping attacks, etc. are versions. Confidentiality attack, they are attacks that attempt to intercept confidential information sent over wireless associations, regardless of whether they are sent in clear text or encrypted by Wi-Fi protocols. Eavesdropping, traffic analysis, crapping wiped keys, etc. Availability attacks. With these, they aim at obstructing the delivery of wireless services to legitimate users, either by crippling the resources or by denying them access to the WLAN. So you have like your DOS is the big version of that. You see the most. Authentication attacks. Objective of an authentication attack is to steal the identity of the Wi-Fi clients, their personal information, login credentials, etc., to gain unauthorized access to network resources. And you can see you have like PS cracking, PSK cracking, leap cracking, and those there too. Okay, now some of these we have gone through, but they have some really nice slides for these. So I highly suggest if you want a little more detailed slide for these types of wireless attacks, that you check out this section on here. So rogue AP attack is basically they place a random wireless AP in there, and then you can use it to hijack your network connection. Client misassociation, you set up a rogue AP outside the corporate perimeter and lure the employees of the organization to connect with it. Then they can try to bypass things that way. Misconfigured API attack. APs are configured to broadcast the SSIDs to authorized users. They have weak passwords to verify authorized users. Network administrators will incorrectly use the SSID passwords. And then with that configuration error, SSID broadcasting is configuration error that enables intruders to steal at the SSID and cause an AP to assume they are allowed to connect. So that's what happens there. Unauthorized association. Soft APs are client cards or embedded WLAN radios in some PDAs and laptops that can be launched inadvertently or through a virus program. Attackers can infect the victim's machine and activate the soft, it's like a software-based AP, thus allowing them unauthorized connection. And then the attackers connect to the enterprise networks through the software APs instead of the actual hardware APs. And that's how they get around all the normal security. Ad hoc. Wi-Fi clients communicate directly via ad hoc mode that does not require an AP to relay packets. Ad hoc mode, it's my leg, don't sharpen your claws on it. Ad hoc mode is inherently insecure and does not provide strong authentication and encryption. Thus, the attacker can easily connect to and compromise the enterprise client operating in ad hoc mode. So basically the point is try to avoid using ad hoc mode. Honeypot APs. So basically, remember us talking about APs, they set up an AP that looks like, oh, look at me, come use me. And it's not something you actually want to do. AP max spoofing. So they say, hey, I'm this AP over here, but they're just spoofing the MAC address of a legit wireless AP. Denial of service attack for wireless one. It disrupts your wireless network connections by sending broadcast deauthenticate commands, and transmitted deauthentication forces the clients to disconnect from the AP. It just knocks them right off the wireless network. There's crack, the key reinstallation attack. All secure Wi-Fi networks use four-way handshake to join the network and generate fresh encryption key that will be used to encrypt the network traffic. The crack attack works by exploiting the four-way handshake of the WPA2 protocol by forcing nonce reuse. Crack works against all modern protected Wi-Fi networks and allows attackers to steal sensitive information like credit cards and everything else. So what is the four-way handshake? You have the A nonce, signed S nonce, signed A nonce, and then acknowledge. And that's what that looks like. When you get this attacked, we have the A nonce, signed nonce, and then you can see that they intercept partway through, and then you can see where they've attacked here. Okay, jamming signal attacks. Wireless networks are prone to jamming. You can actually buy wireless jammers or go out and find stuff on tutorials on how to make them. It's crazy. But the jamming signal causes a DOS because the 802.11 is a CSMACA protocol whose collision avoidance algorithms require a period of silence before a radio is allowed to transmit. Attacker stakes out the area from a nearby location with a high gain amplifier, drowning out legitimate AP. Users simply cannot get through to log in, or they are knocked off the connection by the overpowering nearby signals. I believe without consent, it is indeed a federal crime because it's yeah, it is. I was going to say, don't go out there and look to build jamming. If you're going to do something like that, make sure that it's on a very small scale and only affects your network. And if you're going to do it, that it might leak out and get your neighbors, warn them. But yeah, those devices, the jamming, while you can buy them, they're not technically legal. So, but it's crazy how easy they are to find. That's not to say that they are legal. Here are some examples, by the way, of the different types. And basically, if you look at them, they just look like your Wi-Fi routers because they're just a bunch of antennas that are used to do that as well. I'm not even going to try. I think it's alter is how that's supposed to be pronounced, but they're performed against the LTE devices. The attacker installs virtual fake communication tower between two authentic endpoints, intending to mislead the victim. The virtual tower is used to interrupt data transmission between the user and the real tower, and then they try to hijack the active session. Okay, then there's wormhole and sinkhole. Probably most of these, if you because you're dealing with, depending on how far the signal goes, there's all sorts of FCC state lines. When you're dealing with broadcasting and Wi-Fi and things like that, you run into all sorts of legality issues. So just be aware of that. Wormhole is the attack that exploits the dynamic routing protocols like DSR and AODB. Attacker locates themselves strategically in the target network to snip and record ongoing wireless transmissions. And then they create a tunnel to forward the data between the source and destination hole. Hence why it's called the wormhole. And then the sinkhole is a variant of selective forwarding attack where the attacker uses a malicious node and advertises the node as the shortest possible route to reach the base station. The attacker places malicious node near the base station to attract all neighboring nodes with fake routing information, and then performs data forging attack. Yeah, no, the FCC does not play around if you're messing with anything that has to deal with emergency channels. They will come down hard on you for that stuff. Okay, next, interchip escalation and wireless coexist attack. The interchip privilege escalation attack exploits underlying vulnerabilities in wireless chips that handle wireless communications like Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Manufacturers often design separate chips for Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. Alternately, they design a combo chip for both types of Wi-Fi communications. Attackers leverage combo chips to exploit one chip to steal data from the other chip and make lateral moves to exploit the other chips. This can cause a wireless coexistence attack, which may lead to privilege escalation at chip boundaries. Cat seems to have been a jerk to me all day. GNSS spoofing. or global navigational satellite system spoofing. This is definitely one you'll get in trouble for. This is a procedure in which the attacker modifies the target's user's legitimate GNSS signal measures, position, navigation, and time, and with a basically a bad signal, and broadcasts the same signals to the target's user's GNSS receiver. Similar to a jamming attack, spoofing causes another form of interference, which forces the users into believing they are located at a false position. So basically, it's like faking the information that you would get off of your GPS system type stuff. Yeah, I imagine there's a lot of people that did that. Yeah. Okay, what is the wireless hacking methodology? It's very similar to the stuff that we've gone over before. So Wi-Fi discovery, GPS mapping, wireless traffic analysis, launch your wireless attacks, Wi-Fi encryption cracking, and then compromise your Wi-Fi network. So let me go back up to Brian. So this is just wireless network footprinting. You just discover and footprint your network and activity. Try to do it passively first. Get as much as you can passively before you have to do anything active. At least that's what I always do when I'm doing stuff. For passive, you can detect the existence of an AP by sniffing the packets from airwaves, which reveal the AP SSID and attacker's wireless devices that are live. And then active, you can go for the wireless device sends out like its probe requests to your SSID to see if an AP responds. If the wireless device does not have the SSID at the beginning, it will send the probe request with an empty SSID. You can do Wi-Fi discovery, and this really isn't that hard. In fact, I have an app on my phone that I had to use. I can tell you what it's called. It's just Wi-Fi Analyzer, and it has all sorts of charts, and it'll tell you. I did it because I had a bunch of people that were on the same Wi-Fi channel, so I had a bunch of noise. And so when I had my stuff first installed, it was causing a lot of problems because if you looked at the Wi-Fi range around me, you could see like this huge amount of traffic on the same channel that I was on. So I had to move over to a different channel. Net Analyzer, yep, that's a good one. There's a lot of them. They have some really cool little, it's not hard. I mean, you just use these apps and it'll tell you all sorts of information, you know. So there's war walking, war chalking, war flying, war driving. Basically, you just go around and with different stuff and see what you can find. War chalking is basically you draw symbols on public places to advertise, and that's what's over there. And we're kind of a small city area. I have not. Have a good night, Josh. I have not seen hardly any of these around us. You'll see them possibly in the bigger cities, but not so much here. Yeah, yeah. I've heard more people talking about war driving than anything else. You can do Wi-Fi discovery. This one's got a WPS enabled. Let's see, this one's just wash utility. Yeah, it's a wash utility. This one's Insider, and let's looking for that. There's Net Surveyor. There's a couple of ones down here that'll give you different ones. It really just depends on, like, there's different ones for different platforms. You have ones on mobile, you have ones on like Linux. It just depends on what you're doing. GPS mapping. Sorry, I have a kitty that's been having some health problems, so she's been really clingy. So you'll probably see her come up and down while I do the lecture. Anyway, GPS mapping, they create a map of discovered Wi-Fi networks and a database with stats collected by Wi-Fi discovery tools. So you'll see stuff like this. And then you have your little colored in, this is really good stuff. And then you get your speeds under a really terrible one. War driving. So this is just steps if you're going to be doing something like war driving is basically just driving around with a laptop. And I know some students did part of this a little bit, not so much war driving. They were using something like this to sniff out traffic from a business to see if they could get their Wi-Fi information. It's really, they had some super simple stuff that they made. So there's all sorts of different things you can do for that. But just remember, passive, not active. Don't mess with any of that stuff. If you're going to be doing active anything, you need to get permission where you're doing it. Wireless traffic analysis. So this just allows you analyze your traffic to allow you to figure out what vulnerabilities might be there. It also helps you determine whatever strategies you might want to do if you're going to do an attack. It also helps you find different broadcast SSIDs, possibility of finding different places that have multiple access points in the same buildings. You can also use Wi-Fi packet analyzer tools like Air Magnet, Wireshark, Steel Central Packet Analyzer, OmniPeak, and a bunch of other ones to look at the traffic. This one, I've actually had 2 different students during their capstones use this as part of it. It is Aircraft NG, and this one is a detector, packet sniffer, wet, and then WPA, PA2, cracker. They did it on their home network just to see what they could do, and it was really interesting. They had all sorts of cool things. Detection of hidden SSIDs. You can do Airmon NG, and you can figure out those by doing these steps. Fragmentation attacks. So you remember us talking about fragmentation attacks with the regular networks? It's basically the same thing, but you just use different tools. MAC spoofing, same kind of thing, just different tool. You just spoof your MAC address. It's actually a little bit easier to do that when you're talking about Wi-Fi stuff than it is with the other ones. DOS, or dissociation and deauth attacks. When it comes to wireless access points. So the dissociation attack, the client is authenticated. Then the attacker sends the dissociate requests, and then the client connects to the network and is still authenticated, but no longer associated with that AP. And then the deauth, the client's authenticated, the attacker sends the deauth request, the client is authenticated, but not associated with the AP. Again.
What's the difference between association and authentication? More so the association part.
You had to ask. So the authentication mode.
The authentication is like being attached to the network.
I think
Yeah.
a good example would be like when you open your Wi-Fi and you see a network and it's open for you. I think isn't that associated
Yes,
versus
yes.
authenticated?
Oh,
when
so
you
like if you,
access
come
it?
home after work and you automatically connect to your home network, that's like the
Yeah,
association.
that's
You
Okay.
have, yeah, you're, you can see, you can get associated with his network, but you're not authenticated. That would
Okay.
be,
And
so he lets,
you can attack either or both sections.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I've tried
Pretty
doing
good
the
explanation,
auth
yeah.
packets on my home network and all that, but I think for like disassociation, if you disassociate the client, and then next time they go to connect, they have to put the password in again, so you can just set up monitoring for that, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah. There's
Okay.
yeah, Steve will have the 3G guest network for you, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. And
5G.
and there are tools that you can take yourself on and off yourself to do both of those, but these attacks just basically force that person out.
Gotcha. Cool.
So yeah, that was an excellent example. Good job. They launch a wireless attack and the man in the middle attack. So this one is one that has tons and tons of different variations. So the attacker goes after the victim's wireless parameters, sends your DAuth to the victim with a spoof source. Victim's DAuth and starts to search for all channels for a new valid AP. Attacker sends a forged AP on a new channel with the original MAC address, so it looks like that's what they need to be on. The victim associates with the forged AP. The attacker spoofs the victim, and then they connect to the original AP. And then the attacker sits between the AP and the victim and just listens to all the traffic. And this is Aircraft NG and how you do a man-in-the-middle attack. And yes, I had students that did man-in-the-middle attacks on their own networks, and it was they managed to do it, they pulled it off, and it was successful. All right, let me see how much we have. Oh my goodness. Okay. Wireless ARP poisoning, we've gone over this ARP poisoning a lot. So basically this is it's the same as you doing it for a wired network. Here is what it looks like when you use EtherCap. EtherCap is actually a pretty common tool for ARP poisoning. And I've actually seen some test questions, not my test questions, but test questions in CERT exams specifically talking about EtherCap. Rogue APs, I absolutely detest rogue APs. Basically, they're just a pocket-sized AP. They plug it into your network. This is also why, you know how we've talked about physical. Yes, physical security is part of our job for this reason. This is why. It is really not that hard if people are not paying attention to walk in and stick one of these to a network. And unless people are paying attention, it can sit there for a while. This is Mana Toolkit. And using this, you can create your very own rogue AP. Evil twin attack. I always thought this one was just hilarious, but it's basically like a fake hotspot you can set up. Use wireless AP that pretends to be a legit AP by replicating another network name. So basically it's like, hey, I'm really this person, you know. I always think of it like the mirror universe from Star Trek. For some reason, that one always helped me remember it. So you can use this methodology for setting up your evil twin attack. You need a laptop with internet connectivity and a mini wireless AP, and then you can walk through these steps. If you want to do that on your own or someone else's, once you have permission, you can play with this one. Alter for information gathering. You can do passively gathering information, like identity mapping before you do this. And then in order to do the attack phase, you do things like DNS spoofing and things like that. Yjacking, wejacking attack. This one is you use a deauth request and that knocks them off. And then you can use all of these steps to get in there and use that. I hope you don't mind me kind of glossing over some of these that gets kind of in the weeds for the exact how you do these. And I know that that will just kind of overload everybody. So RFID cloning is so easy. It's not even funny. You can use things like the flipper. Yes, I have one of those. I don't know if you guys saw, they just put out a video game module, which I ordered because of course I had to. But you really don't even need a flipper to do this. It's not that hard. And it's just that the flipper was they put all this stuff in the same spot. So that's why a lot of times when they do RFID tags, they put them in conjunction with something else because it's super easy to clone them. WEP, remember how we were talking about this is not a secure encryption. Well, this is different ways you can crack the encryption on it. You can also use aircrack-ng, and here you go. Here's exactly how you do that with aircrack-ng. Here's some more. You can do a packet injection and things like that. You can also do this with WPA. WPA2 is a little bit harder because you're looking at longer keys, longer, more complicated algorithms, but WPA is definitely doable. WPA-PSK, here's your codes for doing that. This is Y-Fisher. Ooh, okay, I hope the puppy feels better. Wi-Fi Fisher. This one you can go out and use, and after the victim connects to the rogue wireless network manager page opens automatically on the victim's device, luring the victim to provide their Wi-Fi password. A lot of times when it comes to stuff like this, I was surprised how many people will just enter their credentials, just pop them right in there. They don't particularly care. It's not hard to get them to do it. Yeah, captive portal. That's another way to call it. Yeah, that's a good point. Wi-Fi Fisher is just a tool that you perpetrate that with. WPS Reaver is a good tool that you can use. It's on Parrot and it is on Kali. This one is going to take a lot more difficulty. Usually you have to have a much bigger oomph on your computer in order to get through WPA3 encryption, but downgrade security attacks and side channel attacks are the two areas that have been more successful. Now this one, web cracking and WPA brute forcing. This is using Westside NG and Fern Wi-Fi Cracker. They're just two other tools that you can use, and you can always go try those out. More tools. There are some super cool tools when it comes to Wi-Fi hacking. So Elcomsoft, this one's a wireless security auditor, allows you to break into a secure Wi-Fi network by sniffing network traffic, and then you run an attack on their passwords. And if you look down here on the right, you have a nice little list there. So those are cracking tools right here. These are packet sniffers, Steel Central and OmniPeak. And then Common View and Kismet. Kismet's actually pretty cool. I just enjoy it because I like things that are pretty colorful, but that's just me. Wi-Fi traffic analyzers. There's air magnet Wi-Fi Analyzer Pro. Steel Central, OmniPeak are again listed here. PRTG, I've talked about that one a couple of times. And as you can see, wireless is a huge area for tools. Look at all these. You have your Wiggle Wi-Fi war driving over here. I'm trying to see if there's anything that I've
like
used.
it's not safe.
Yeah, it's almost like it can cause, yeah, no, there's so much that you can. Air Sleuth Pro, I've used that one, that was fun. But there's a ton of them out here that you can use. A lot of them will use TCP dump in conjunction so that they can dump their, that's how they dump their packets. Bluetooth, I will warn you right now, while I do enjoy Bluetooth, I love Bluetooth devices, it is not hard to hack. So there is the Bluetooth stack. So Bluetooth is short range wireless communication technology that replaces your cables so that you can have wireless access. There's Bluetooth, the two Bluetooth modes. There's discoverable. Oh, there's all sorts of cool stuff you can try on your own. I highly suggest it. It'll also tell you just how vulnerable some of your stuff is. That's why if I buy something that's Bluetooth, I try to buy something that's only Bluetooth, not Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, so they can't get on Bluetooth and then pivot into your Wi-Fi network. So, because, you know, the worst thing they can do if they get my Bluetooth only light bulbs is, ooh, I might get some pretty disco lights, you know, but that's it. So, okay, so we have Discover mode. This one sends inquiry responses. It's limited discoverable, visible to only for a certain period of time, and then non-discoverable, that one never answers. Then there's pairing mode, there's non-pairable mode, and that one rejects everything. And then pairable mode, that's the one that you usually see the two flashing lights. And as you can see, there's a few, and I love the names on these. When I was, I actually had little flashcards with all these on there. Yes, these are legit. The names of these Bluetooth attacks: blue smacking, blue jacking, blue snarfing, blue sniff, blue bugging, blue printing, that's it, bubble jacking, knob attack, Mac spoofing, and of course our man in the middle. Well, the nice thing about Bluetooth is that it is very short range. So they have to be within a certain range to even get to you. Then we have, what are the threats that can happen? Leakage of calendars and address books, bugging devices, SMS messages, financial loss, remote control, meaning they can get onto your phone. This is why I always tell people, if you have Bluetooth on, don't leave it on all the time. Shut it off. Social engineering, of course, malicious code, spreading things like phone worms, and protocol vulnerabilities. That's when attackers exploit Bluetooth pairing and communication protocol to steal data, make calls, and do all sorts of stuff on your phone. Bluejacking. Okay. This is actually the first one I ever learned about. It's actively sending anonymous messages over Bluetooth to Bluetooth-enabled devices like laptops and mobile phones via OBEX. So step one, you select an area with several mobile users, go to your contacts. In your address book, you can delete the contact entry later. Create a new contact, enter your message, save the contact with the name without the telephone number, choose send via Bluetooth, and then this searches for any Bluetooth device within range. Choose one phone from the list discovered by Bluetooth and send to the contact, and you'll get the message that reads card sent. The victim is notified of this SMS received on their phone with a notification sound. Bluetooth reconnaissance. This is BlueZ that they're using for this. They configure their Bluetooth device using the HCI config. Scan for pairable Bluetooth devices using that tool. Use the service discover protocol tool to scan for other services. And then they ping all the devices that are available to see if they're reachable. Okay, on this one, you select your target, take position within a 5-meter radius. See what I mean? It's not as far away as you could do with like a Wi-Fi. Capture the already established new BLE connection, sniff an existing connection, sniff for new connection, and then perform your jamming operation, and then hijack the connection, and then whoop, there you go. With this one, you can crack your BLE encryption using Crackle. The data exchange and pairing process in BLE devices can occur in 2 phases. In the first phase, device exchange details about their types and abilities to determine best possible way to establish the connection. In the second phase, they have a key phase that involves key establishment and exchange. Attackers can use tools like Crackle that mainly targets the second phase to breach and gain access to a target device. And then you have your operations, you have a crack and decrypt mode on that. And here's some hacking tools. I haven't done as much with these, but Blue Scan and Blue Devil I have used, and there's always more out there. Wireless countermeasures. So there's always countermeasures. Wireless security layers. We have the RF spectrum, wireless IDS. Then we have data protection with the different encryption, connection security, peer packet authentication, centralized encryption, network protection. We've got to make sure you have strong authentication, device security, make sure your vulnerabilities and other things are patched up, end user protection, make sure you use things like stateful per user firewalls. So for the WPA 2-3 cracking, for passphrases, the only way you can get through that is to sniff the passphrases. And these are talking about things like selecting your random passphrase that's not made up of dictionary words. Select complex passphrases with a minimum of 20 characters and change it regularly. And you can use what are called diceware words or password managers for secure passwords. Client settings, make sure you use the highest AES encryption only, and then make sure your client settings are updated. And then there are additional controls like VPNs or network access control. For crack and alter attacks, make sure you update everything to the, for the crack one, make sure you update everything, turn on auto updates, and make sure you're, a big thing that most people don't pay attention to in their home devices, because they just don't like doing it, is patching the firmware on your routers. So that is something I would suggest that if you guys don't already check, make sure that you do. Don't use public Wi-Fi networks. I really kind of want to yell that and put it in all caps. Don't use public Wi-Fi networks unless you're using a throwaway device and you want to see how easy it is to trash. Browse only secure websites. If you have IoT devices, make sure you audit them. Don't connect to insecure Wi-Fi routers. Enable HTTPS everywhere extensions. Do MFA or at least 2-factor authentication. And for the alter attack, encrypt DNS queries. Resolve DNS queries with HTTPS protocol. access only those websites that have HTTPS connection. Anytime I see HTTP now, it automatically makes me go, uh-oh, and it should everybody else. Use DNS over TLS or DTLS to provide encryption. Implement RFC, all the numbers to prevent DNS spoofing attacks. Add MAC to user plain packets. Use DNS crypt protocols to authenticate. Use mobile device tools like Zimperium to detect phishing. Okay, if you're going to use free Wi-Fi, then you better really have some serious security, or you just, don't care about your phone. RF scanning, AP scanning, and wired side inputs are ways to check for, to detect rogue APs. And then in order to block rogue APs, basically you just deny wireless services to new clients by launching a DOS on that rogue AP, and then block the switch port to which AP is connected, or manually locate the AP and physically pull it off the LAN. The latter is usually what I had to do, because it was usually some child that decided they wanted to play with something and add it in. Usually it's because they wanted to play video games on the filtered network and thought they could get around it. But the minute you plug anything in that was like that to our network, it freaked out. So then we got to go track it down, and that was always fun. Defense against wireless attacks, best practices. For configuration, change your default SSID. I should not have to keep telling people this, but it is something that constantly comes up. I mean, if you scan around you right now with one of those apps, I'd say 7 out of 10 of them are probably going to still be using the default SSID that came with them. Set router access passwords and enable firewall. Disable your SSID broadcast. Disable remote router login and wireless administration. In fact, that right there is how they had a particularly nasty worm that went through several of the, what was it? It was one of the routers. I can't remember. It was a major router that they had issues with, and it was because it had some sort of an issue with remote administration login, and that was actually how they got through it. It was a while ago. And if you hadn't updated your firmware, it basically just sent this through your whole system. MAC address filtering is super easy to turn on even at home. Enable encryption on your AP and change your passphrase or password. Best practice for SSIDs, use SSID cloaking. Do not use your SSID company name, network name, or easy to guess string in passphrases. Place firewall or packet filter between the AP and corporate internet. Limit strength of wireless network to avoid being detected outside the bounds of your organization. Regularly check wireless devices for configuration or setup problems. Implement an additional technique for encrypting traffic like IPsec over wireless. Best practices for authentication. Make sure you have at least the WPA with 802.1x authentication. Implement WPA2, WPA3 enterprise wherever possible. Disable network when not required. Place wireless APs in a secure location. That one is, oh boy, I've seen some really interesting versions of that. Keep drivers on all wireless equipment updated, and use central server for authentication. And this is just an example of some possible setups to help with that. Bluetooth hacking. Use non-regular patterns as PIN keys when you're doing pairing devices. Keep your devices in non-discoverable or hidden mode. Do not accept any unknown or unexpected pairing requests. Always enable encryption when establishing a Bluetooth connection to your PC. Keep a check of all paired devices in the past from time to time and delete any paired devices that you're unsure of. Keep Bluetooth in the disabled state and enable it only when needed. Set Bluetooth enabled devices network range to the lowest and perform pairing only in a secured area. Install antivirus when you can. A lot of them you can't. Use link encryption for Bluetooth connections. Okay. And then lastly, wireless security tools. And then I'll let you guys run away. So WIPs are wireless intrusion prevention systems. So they're just an intrusion prevention system, just with wireless. So when you deploy these, they like to have those you can see here, they like to have those like you had your DMZ, your Wi-Fi network, and then they'd like you to be able to put them in between everything so you can check everything out. Wi-Fi security auditing tools, things like Cisco Adaptive Wireless IPS. Cats, I know, stop helping me. Boop Suite, which I just think is a fantastic name. And then Fern, Wi-Fi Tracker are some other ones. This is just Wi-Fi IPSs. WatchGuard, I've used WatchGuard. Their products are actually pretty cool. Wi-Fi predictive planning tools. These are really great. If you ever decide to get into anything like this, they have some really cool hardware and software that help you figure out where to place your wireless APs in order to put them in the best ranges and not have too much bleed over, and it's pretty cool. ZenMap, so it's like Nmap, but it's just got a different GUI. Nessus Pro is really cool. Those two I've used frequently in different places. So the other ones are good too, I'm sure. It's just that those ones I have the most experience with. Bluetooth. There are Bluetooth firewalls, and then there are a bunch of different ones that you can use down here too. Then for Wi-Fi security guards for mobile, there's like ArcGuard, Safe Connect, Wi-Fi Inspector, Hotspot Shield. I've used Fing, which is a network tools one. It's actually really good. So if you want, that one's a good one for playing with. So Fing, I think it's just, I wish that you could actually just go out and add clickables on here for you, but Fing network tools, if you want a more professional one off of Google, that one's a really good one. Okay, so quick summary here. What did we do? All the wireless things. Wireless network concepts and different types of encryption technologies, wireless threats, wireless hacking, various hacking tools, Bluetooth hacking concepts with all their fun names, countermeasures to prevent wireless hacking, and then how to secure wireless networks. Yeah, I know, it's a long one. Okay. Before I stop the lecture, are there any questions that need to be on here? You guys know? Everyone's brain hurts? Okay. I did get a lot of good input from you guys today, so thank you for that. And I'm going to stop the lecture here.